It's TK Friday, and today in the Joy of Editing, something a little bit different. Today we're going to explore some of David Tillett's Photoshop actions that he made from TK button clicks. There's some really good ones in here. I wanted to share those with you. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and welcome to TK Friday. If you'd like to speed up your Photoshop workflow and you work with the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, David Tillett has some really good Photoshop actions that you can use to really help you out. And I wanted to show you some of my favorites here today. By the way, when you purchase TK9 version 3, you got these David Tillett actions. And I have a PDF for you to download, as you're seeing right now on the screen. It shows you exactly where to find them. Maybe you've never installed them. This PDF will really help you. So download the PDF if you don't know where your David Tillett actions are at, and this will tell you everything about it, how to install them, where to find them. So do me a favor, download this PDF. I'm also using some stock images today for my examples, and I'll have links for those if you want to download them. You don't really need to. You could try this out on your own images, to be quite honest with you, but those links are there if you need them. And today I'll be going over 8 different actions that I think will really help speed up your workflow. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I'll have links in the description below this video that'll take you over to Tony Kepper's web store. There you're going to find the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, a lot of great panels over there you can pick up. Sean Bagshaw's training videos, which I highly recommend. And you'll also find the TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer plugins. They're sold as a bundle. You'll get both plugins for $12. If you're into black and white photography, you'll love TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer. Use my promo code DK15 and you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. When you use my promo code, I make a small commission, and this helps to support my channel, so I really appreciate it when you use my promo code. And not only are you helping me out, but you're getting 15% off. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, one thing I need to say up front, David Tillett's actions that he made by using TK9 button clicks, do not install them in your TK9 My Actions panels. They will not work from there. Very important. A lot of people do that and they can't get his actions to work. That's because they are Photoshop actions. So what you want to do is look for this icon. If your actions aren't open, come up to the Photoshop menu and click on Window and look for Actions right here. Click on that, and now your actions will come out onto your workspace, as you can see right here. Now, right now, here's David Tillett's actions. They're in this group called TK9 Actions, and you can see all the actions here. I highly recommend that you use these actions in button mode. It's going to make it a lot more easy to use these Photoshop actions. Look for the hamburger menu at the top of the actions right here. Click on that and click on button mode. And now we can see David Tillett's actions right here. They start at BNC Landscape, which I use all the time on my TK Friday full edits. And then we come down to close panels. That's his actions in that group right there. So that's important. Running them from button mode is good. Now remember, these are Photoshop actions. They are not in the My Actions panel. You don't want to run them from there. By the way, David Tillett's actions are highlighted in red here. Now you'll see all of your Photoshop actions in here. So look for that group of red actions starting with BNC Landscape, and again, ending with Close Panels. That's where the actions are. If you left click and drag right here, you can move this around anywhere you want. Just keep holding that left click down. You can dock this panel anywhere you want. For instance, if I wanted to dock it right up here at the top here, see that little blue line right there? If I release the left click of my mouse now, I'll dock that right there. And then if I click on this play button, you can see there's my actions. Now I'm going to click, left click, holding down the left click and drag it out. I want to put mine right in here. See where I have Magic Mixer and Grayscale? I want to tuck it in there. So I'm going to click and drag and see when that blue box goes there. As soon as you see that, release the left click of your mouse and you'll put it right in there. And then you could resize these. See, when you hover near the edge, I can make that longer or shorter, whatever I want to do. So I'm going to leave it right about like that size. And then you can just use the scroll bar to scroll through your various Photoshop actions. Thanks for putting up with me as I explained all that stuff to you, but I just wanted to do that up front so we don't have any issues when you're working with these Photoshop actions. And now let's work with these Photoshop actions made with TK9 button clicks. The first action I want to show you is called Lift Warm. Now I need to scroll down to find it. It is right here, Lift Warm. All you need to do when you're in button mode is just click on the name Lift Warm. Click it, it runs the action. Now look at the image. I'm going to shut this off. This is before and this is after. See how all the warm colors have been lifted up and lightened up in a really beautiful way. This is a really good action, especially if you do a lot of landscapes. And basically what's happening here, let's look at this mask. On the Combo or CX panel, click the double arrow button. And what David did, he created a color mask that's targeting only the warm colors in this image. So there you can see it. These are just the warm tones of the image. Click this button again, we go back to the image. Now the default setting is saturation increased to +40, lights increased to +15. This is a default setting and nobody says you can't change it, right? So if you want to add more saturation or less saturation, whatever you need to do. And if you want to lighten it up a little bit more, all those warm tones that are getting lifted up, right? So you can lighten them by taking the lightness to the right or darken them to the left, whatever you need. But there you have it. That is Lift Warms. Let's try it on another image. Let's check it out on this one. So let's come back to our Photoshop actions, not found in my actions panel, but from the Photoshop actions panel. Click on Lift Warm and let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. Isn't that nice? And let's increase that saturation a little bit. Maybe to right about there. Maybe let's lighten it up a little bit more. Maybe right there. Now let's shut this off. Here's before and here's after. Again, before and after. And that's all done with one click of a button, Lift Warm. And now let's go into an opposite direction. How about Drop Cool? Drop Cool is right under Lift Warm. Let's click it, Drop Cool. And now look at the sky and all the cool colors. I'm going to shut this off. Here's before and here's after. See what it does? With an HSL adjustment, reduces the lightness to -14 and increases the saturation to +15. And again, we can adjust these. We can give it less saturation. Maybe I'll give it a little bit more saturation like that. Maybe I'll darken it a little bit more. But this is the starting point, the default setting, and then you can change from there. Now let me shut it off. Here's before, here's after. Let's look at the overall before and the after on this image. We started out here, and now we're here with just 2 button clicks, pretty fast. I came back to this image because what I want to do is lighten up these shadows. I think they're a little bit too dark, and we have an action called Shadows Lighten. Let's try that out. I'm going to go ahead and click it, and you'll note I have a group called Shadows Lighten, and inside that group, we have a curves adjustment layer in the screen lightening blend mode with a mask that is targeting shadows. The action makes the group layer active. Now it has a black hide all mask because what you're going to do is paint on the adjustment with a white brush, which the action gives you. And you could use any opacity you want. It depends how light you want to make the shadows. In my case, I don't want to lighten them up too much. I'm using an opacity of 50%, and all you do is paint on shadows. And remember, the mask will target only the shadows. So if you go over light areas, it's not going to hurt them. So that's pretty cool, right? Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. Now, if the effect is too strong, you can always take the layer opacity of the group and pull it back like that. If you have TK Opacity Plus, which is absolutely free, you can pick it up at Tony Kuiper's web store. Links are in the description below this video. Just click on these numbers. Let's say I want to see what it looks like at 60%. So I'll click on the 6. Okay, that's 60% opacity. Let's try 50%. Let me click on the 5. That's 50. I'm going to go back and click on 6 again. Now, if you right click on 6, you can see there's the before, right click again, and there's the after. And I think I'll go with 60%. Whenever you're done working with a group, it's a good idea to close the group by clicking right here. That collapses the group. And then the next thing you do with TK9, you want to make sure it doesn't go in that group. So it's always a good idea to close the group. But let me shut this off again. Look at the image. Here's before, here's after. See, we lightened up those shadows. Whenever you need to lighten up some shadows, try out the Shadows Lighten action. Now, a lot of times we want to bring up weaker colors in the image, and we have an action for that, and that's called Lift Unsaturated. You'll find it right here, so we're going to give that a click. And what we get here is a hue saturation adjustment layer right here with a Vibrance 4 mask applied to it, targeting just the weaker colors of the image. Now, by default, there's no adjustment here, so we're targeting just weaker colors. So I'll take the saturation and I'll drag it to the right and see how I can just bring up the weaker colors of the image really nicely right there. This type of an adjustment I do all the time in my TK Friday full edits, but this is a one-click deal, which is really great for speeding up your workflow. And if you need to lighten it up, you also have the lightness slider, or you could shift the hue a little warmer or cooler, whatever you want to do. Double click to set it back to 0. So that's nice. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after, a real time saver, lift unsaturated. Now there's also times when you have too much saturation and you need to dial back that saturation. Well, there's another action for that, and that is called drop saturated. It's right here. I'm going to give it a click. And with this action, we also get a hue saturation adjustment layer, but this time we have a saturation 1 mask on it, targeting the most saturated colors. And the hue saturation adjustment is set at its default setting of no adjustment. Now that we're targeting oversaturated colors, just come to saturation and pull that back. And stop where you think it looks the best. And I think it looks good, maybe right about here. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. Now, if you want, you can also click on the target tool. Maybe I want to bring the blue up just a little bit more. I did reduce blues, but I just want to target blue by itself. So I'll click and drag this to the right a little bit and bring the blue out. And I think the greens are good. So don't forget, you also have the target tool here. I'll shut this off. Here's before, here's after, but that is drop saturated, a real time saver. Are you having fun yet? Let's move on to the next action. A lot of times in my TK Friday videos, practically every full edit, I'm lightening up mid-tone. So let me show you the mid-tone lighten action. And you're going to find it right here, MidTone Lighten. I'll give that a click. And what you get here is a curves adjustment layer in the screen lightening blend mode with a MidTones 1 mask on it, all with just one click of a button. Pretty nice. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after, and then I can use like TK opacity plus or just go and pull back on my layer opacity, but I like TK opacity plus. Let's reduce this a little bit. Let's go to 70%. I'll click on my 7. Let's click on 8 for 80%. I think I like 80%. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. A real fast and easy way to lighten up your midtones. Now let's look at another action. This is an action I really like a whole lot, and that is midtone contrast. I love to add midtone contrast to my landscape images, and we have an action for that. And you're going to find it right here, midtone contrast. So we're going to give that a click. And look at that. I'm going to shut this off. Here's before, here's after. A beautiful midtone contrast adjustment, only targeting midtones. And what we have here is a curves adjustment layer with a midtones 1 mask, only targeting midtones, with a very strong contrast curve. The default opacity is 100%. Again, let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. Now remember, you can always dial it down. Like, let me click on the 7 for 70%. In this image, I like it up the whole way, so let me click the 10, and that gets us up to 100%. But I think this is an action that you can get a lot of good usage out of. Now, a lot of times after I do a midtone contrast, I think my midtones get a little darker, so I like to follow that up with a lightening of the midtones, and now we have an action to do that. So start out with your midtone contrast action, and if you need to lighten your midtones, click on your midtone lighten action. Now that's way too strong, so I would probably come down. Let's try 20%. I'll type the 2. That's 20%. I'll right click to see the before the midtone lightening. I'll right click again. That's after. Maybe I'll go to 30%. I'll click on the 3. I'll right click the 3. This is before midtone lightening. I'll right click again. This is after. I'll shut these both off. This is before midtone lightening and contrast, and this is after. So these two will work nicely hand in hand. Start out with midtone contrast, and if your midtones get a little too dark, follow that up with a midtone lighten. I've got one more action for you, and I know we all will use this action, and that is a vignette action. But it's a vignette no darks action. This is a big time saver. All we need to do is find it first in the actions, and I'll click on the scroll bar, and I want to drag this up a little bit. It's right here, Vignette No Dark, so I'll give that a click. A Gaussian blur dialog comes up. You can change this if you want, but it is designed to pick the right radius for the image, and I'm usually happy with it, so I just click OK. And now we have a vignette on the image. Let me go ahead and shut off the vignette layer. Here's before, here's after, but this is a special vignette because it is using blend diff to protect it from going into the darkest dark areas, okay? So it's using a no darks 1 setting in the edit blend diff panel. I'll show you that in a second. But what we have here is a curves adjustment layer with the vignette mask on it, defaulted at 30% opacity. If it's too strong, you can click like 2 for 20% or just pull back on the layer opacity to 20%. For this image, I like 30%, so I'll click on the 3 button. That No Darks 1 is keeping it out of the darkest dark. So if I click on the Edit Blend If button, you can see that little black area right there? That's the darkest darks. You can see them down in the corners here. If I uncheck gray, I'll shut Blend If off. So look down in the corner. This is without No Darks 1. I'll click it back on. This is with it. If you want to protect more of the darker areas, you'll click on No Darks 2, but watch this area expand to black when I click on No Darks 2. You see that? Now it's dropping out of more dark areas. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. Now let me uncheck gray. This is before blend if, this is after. But in this case, No Darks 1 is good. And for most of the time, No Darks 1 is really all you need. I'm done with the Edit Blend If panel, so I'll click the X to close it. But that is Vignette No Darks. Again, I'll shut this off. Here's before, here's after. This is something we use all the time, and this is a big time saver. Well, that's it for the actions today. If you would like me to do another video exploring more of David Tillett's actions, please let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. Well, there it is, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click the bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.